Recording. All right. Welcome to the Whitman Buildings, Facilities, and Capitals Expenditures Committee for October 15th, 2020. Due to COVID-19, Governor Baker's orders allowed us to present this meeting via Zoom and has waived certain public meeting requirements. To start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag
Flag
of the
the
United States of America, and to the republic
for
which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks. So I'm going to take the agenda out of order because we have Dennis and Bruce here who, Dennis and Bruce, can you just bear with me for maybe a few minutes because Don Essen, who said he's just going to be a few minutes late, did have some comments that he did want to bring up. So I just wanted to maybe allow him as part of the conversation. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay.
So agenda. So we have a new recording secretary, Miss Melissa Folks. I hope I'm saying that right. She's not in attendance today, but I told her that since we are in the Zoom format, that this meeting will be available for her to transcribe meeting minutes. So that's something new here. The other thing that is new for this committee is that Frank Lynham is no longer the town administrator. We have an assistant town administrator, Miss Lisa Green. So according to the rules governing this committee, Lisa Green will be acting as the interim town administrator and part of this committee. Okay, so that's that. So I sent out the anticipated schedule. I hope you've all had a chance to take a look at it. You can see I've kind of staggered things early on, every 3 weeks. And then as time goes by, reduce it to every 2 weeks. And then as we get close to April and May, every week. This is a fluid schedule. So if anybody has conflicts, either with the day or the time, let us know. I think we're all pretty flexible when it comes to, well, fairly flexible, and we'll try to work around any conflicts that someone may have. With that said, has anybody identified any conflicts as of yet? Okay. Okay. So a few of the dates do run consecutive with the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District vacation week. So just be aware of that. We'll need to be aware of that as that time comes closer, because I know, a lot of people may not be available during that week. All right. So just as a roll call for our new recording secretary's benefit, I'd like to just take a verbal roll call just for everybody that's here. I'll call on your name, and if you could just verbally identify yourself as present. I'll start. David Codero. Justin Evans.
Present.
Fred Small.
Present.
Josh McNeil.
Present.
Dan Saluti.
Present.
Bob Curran.
Present.
Okay, thank you. And also on the line, we also have Bruce Martin and Dennis Smith. Okay. Typically we have a town administrator report. We'll pass over that since she's not with the interim town administrator is not here. Chairman report. So as you know, I also reside on the finance committee, and we've had one, maybe two meetings this fiscal year, this budget season. Requests have been coming in. Frank before his departure, sent a letter, an email to all department heads stating that he changed up the procedure in regards to how he wanted Appendix 2 budgets submitted. And those are all going through our accountant, Ken Lytle, while being CC'd to the Finance Committee. So it appears that Ken Lytle is going to be taking an active role in the Article 2. I sent an email out recently to department heads requesting that they provide their capital requests by October 31st. I included our mission state, I guess the capital warrant that we're bound by for this committee. If you notice in that warrant article, two things come to mind, and I've mentioned this before. One is that it provided a deadline of October 1st of each fiscal year in order for department heads to get that in by, to our committee in order for evaluation. And two is providing a report to the Board of Selectmen for inclusion in the annual town report. I think at some point that report's going to be a capital improvement program with matrices and identification of all, at least if not all, most town capital and vehicles defined as capital. But I don't think that we're not going to be able to finish that this year for inclusion in the town report. So I think it will hopefully give the Board of Selectmen a modified version of it and try for our goal next year of completing that.
Can I just add something real quick?
Go ahead.
Just a heads up, when you're asking for information this early in the year, I mean, I know it sounds like it's, later in the year, but I mean, mid-October, late October, a lot of the vendors don't have their, next fiscal year, if you will, pricing available. So it's obviously a best estimation at this point for, potentially for a lot of departments, depending on what they're looking at for services. Just so everybody knows, I mean, obviously when the Finance Committee gets the information it may not be 100% concrete. And I know it's a draft budget, but just keep that in the back of your mind that, the adjustments may be, 5, 10, 15%, depending on what the actual total is.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good point. And then, I would recommend any budget, if I would respond to any department head who feels that it's too early to obtain cost estimates. I may, for a fiscal year capital request, I would probably recommend that they, go ahead with the costs, with that asterisk that things may change, and where we meet all the way through May. So, there's plenty of time in between to firm up the numbers. I think the most important thing is to make sure that we have all the capital requests for that fiscal year, so we have a general understanding of what what department heads want, what the total anticipated spending may be, so we can stay on board with both the Madden report and the Collins report that in which the Board of Selectmen both approved and following their recommendations was to allow for a little over $1 million this year in increasing incrementally each year for capital projects. So that's something that department heads would need to keep in mind. Is that 1 million? I'm not saying it's a firm cap, but it's definitely a number that we need to pay attention to.
Yeah, I mean, every year around this time, or, actually I try early in September, but unfortunately it doesn't work that well. Send a message to all the vendors that we typically deal with in a request to ask them to level fund their, annual maintenance, to see if they can level fund their annual maintenance to the same as it was last year, basically keeping it steady. And I've had 2 vendors, I think, out of all the vendors that we deal with, continue to do that, which has been phenomenal. But it doesn't happen all the time, and it's not going to happen every single year. So there are points in time when, like I said, these vendors have been holding steady for 3 years. Well, we might get to year 6 and they might say, you know what, we're going to have to tack on 15, 20% now because of the fact that we haven't been taking 3 or 4% over the course of the last 6 years. So, I mean, it's just one of those things. Eventually, I'm sure things will catch up, but just one of those things to think about too.
And IT is so, I don't mean to pick on IT, but I think it's kind of a different animal because you have so many vendors involved in your operating budget, as compared to other departments. But aren't all your vendor costs, aren't those wrapped into your Article 2 line items?
Yeah, they're part of the expense budget. They're part of the expense budget. It's all basically it's one number, if you will. But yeah, they're all encompassed together.
Oh, all right. So, we Brian and Dennis, sorry, Bruce and Dennis, we'll go ahead and move to the item that you're involved in. Maybe that's Don, perfect timing. Just wait a minute for him to connect.
So quickly, while he connects, Dave, sorry to interrupt, but in the, I guess, transition from Frank to Lisa, I guess it was discovered that according to the clerk's records, they don't have on file Fred Small being an actual voting member, and I believe he's been voting since maybe January. So I don't know how that curtails this whole, committee as far as votes that have been taken over the last few months.
Well, last year it was all unanimous, so I guess it wouldn't really matter. If there was an issue there, it'd be 841. 801. So yeah, I guess we'd have to follow up with. Well, I can follow up with the school department to see if they want to. How do they describe it? The committee shall. Where is it? A representative from the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District shall be appointed by the district to serve as a liaison to the committee. So it sounds like the clerk may have some concerns of if that's defined as a voting member or not. Well, hold on a second. Well, I guess technically he's considered at large because he was never appointed. It was never appointed by the district. So the way
there should be a letter on file from the district, because I know Frank had requested that. And I know Bob Hayes had Michelle send it.
Yeah, we definitely need to confirm with the clerk's office or do something to make sure that, we got, because I mean, right now, according to the, I guess the numbers, there is an open seat on this committee if in fact that is the case.
If he is appointed.
And I believe there was a recommendation that Todd DeCudo take that vacancy because he's now or potentially going for the, I guess, assistant facilities manager to assist, Bob Curran in his, activities for managing the actual buildings.
Yeah, well, that's news to me. Prior to this meeting, we were chit-chatting and that did come up. So that is news to me. So I guess if that's the will of, the appointment to this board is done by the Board of Selectmen and the town moderator. So they can, as long as they hold true to the way we're defined here in the warrant article, they can appoint anyone who they want. So if he was appointed, that would then require, well, there's a bunch of different scenarios. So if
probably serve a dual purpose.
Well, Bob Curran stays on, then that's one scenario. If Bob Curran doesn't stay on, that's another scenario. If Fred is appointed, that's one scenario. If he's not appointed, that's another scenario. So there's a lot of different variable issues here, but I'll follow up with Lisa and try to get that resolved.
Yeah, I just figured that we could at least straighten it out to make sure that we're all on board here, because otherwise, obviously, the votes that we're taking may be invalid because of the fact that we potentially, if you're not voting unanimous,
Yep. Justin, did you have a question?
I was just going to say, if you do talk to Lisa and find out about that, let me or Dan know before Tuesday so we can possibly table the appointment of Todd to this committee.
Okay. What is Todd's last name?
Decuto. I think it's Decouto.
Okay. All right. We'll definitely get that resolved before any voting happens for this fiscal year. All right. Okay. So good timing, Don. We were just about to jump into the cost estimate that Bruce Martin has received, DPW has received regarding the from Environmental Partners dated October 5th, 2020, labeled Engineering Services, Whitman DPW Building, Schematic Design, and Opinion of Probable Construction Cost. Has everyone had a chance to take a look at that? Anyone that has it, I guess, is a better question. Okay. So, Don, do you want to go ahead and just kind of provide some comments or concerns that you may have in regards to this cost estimate? Can you hear me, Don? Oh, you're muted. Well, Don, you're still muted. Your audio's not working. I'll respond to you as soon as I can hear you. So Don had forwarded them to me. So and I had some questions. One question, I came from over the past 15, 20 years, I was in the private sector, and I reviewed cost estimates, scopes of work, very minimally construction related, but maybe not minimally, but somewhat construction related. So some of the questions that I had, Bruce or Dennis, is that in this type of scope of work, typically, what I would see for cost estimates, they would bill on a time and material basis with not to exceed lump sums, and they provided the lump sums per task. There's 4 tasks. Do you know whether or not they typically bill on a time? They say they're going to bill on a lump sum basis. The concern that I have with that is, sometimes, if without knowing their rates and the real level of effort, these lump sums are kind of arbitrary numbers without knowing.
Test.
There you go.
All right.
Without knowing, what they're actually doing. Is this type of thing that are these types of cost estimates always billed on a lump sum basis? And do they have the ability to bill on a T&M basis?
I can tell you from past experience working with environmental partners on complete streets programs. They worked with us on the preliminary work to receive the $400,000 grant. And typically they did bill in segments after each task. I'm currently they're currently under contract with us to work on stormwater, MS4, and we just completed a contract with them, and we are about to sign off on a new contract to continue with all that, and all those invoices go out in segments. They complete a task, they get an invoice for that task, and then they start the next task, et cetera, et cetera. That being said, I had sent out some of your potential questions out to our board chair, Kevin Cleary, and he expressed that he didn't have a problem with having a lump sum contract, and then, you know, if they build it out in segments also.
Okay. You know, the other concern I would always express to my clients when I saw cost estimates with known subcontractor work. So they're going to use a contractor called CGKV Architects, which they've for some of the work, and they don't really identify what their anticipated costs of and what their markup is. So, you know, when I used to advise my clients, I'm like, well, I see no problem with the using a subcontractor, but the problem is whether or not the markup they charge on their subcontractor is fair and reasonable. So if lump sums are the norm, I guess so. But does anybody else want to comment on that at all?
Yeah, can you guys hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Hey, Don.
Hey guys, sorry I was a little bit late. I was up in New Hampshire and I rushed to get back here. I apologize. So with the lump sum, will they be receptive to do a T&M not to exceed that lump sum? That way I think they're covered, we're covered, everybody's covered. We engage in those type of contracts all the time.
Oh, I think so, absolutely. I mean, they know that based on, you know, as they discussed at the beginning of discussed Section 8 through 13 of Chapter 113 Mass General Laws, that they discuss how we can't go over the $30,000 mark anyway. And so I think we typically have these go out before we sign them, and we have town council review them, and before we agree to it and sign it. I've done that with every contract I've had with environmental partners, and I assume we would do the same with this.
It's one of those first questions I think a lot of people ask in any project is, you know, it's a typical salesman, a car salesman, or, you know, what's your budget? That's what they want to know, because they want to build their scope of work right around your budget to be able to actually get as much as they can, if you will. Not to say that environmental partners wouldn't do that, but I'm just saying in general, that's, you know, the wrong.
No, and I agree. Unfortunately, they knew what the budget would be based on, you know, the rules regarding, you know, how much we can spend without having to go out to some kind of other process, bidding process or something, you know. So, you know, it was kind of a built-in maximum.
Who created the RFP? Bruce, did you create the RFP? The proposal, request for proposal?
No, we did not send out a formal request for proposal. We've been working on, you know, a new building for 15 years and
Yep.
various things. We have,
And I'm all for
have
it. I am.
we have other work that was done by other engineering firms. We've had environmental partners we've had test borings done on site. We've had environmental partners work on that with the boring companies, and they've had their engineers review the soil samples, et cetera, and give us an estimate or an idea of what we would need to do as far as the types of foundation and the types of soils there. So, you know, we're comfortable with this company. We're currently in the process of designing a $15 million sewer main project for Route 14. So essentially reached out to them verbally and say, look, we want to get a building design roughly so we can go to town meeting with a real cost estimate and a rough design of what the building will look like and the footprint, so we can ask for, X amount of dollars at town meeting next year to actually go ahead and go with a full design and, start the process of actually building the building.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not an expert in building $1 million buildings. I've never done it. Members of your board know more about it than I do, but we just looked at this and we had an article at last year's town meeting to pay for this, and so we wanted to move forward so we'd have something to present in May. And I think that's all we're trying to do, and we'll look for any input we can take.
Now, I'm just going to ask a question that I don't know the answer to, so that's why it's really not directed at Bruce. It's probably more for Bob or even Justin or, maybe even Dave. But do we have standard contracts that are favorable for the town of Whitman that we can implement into, where I work, we have a couple of different contractual agreements. We have a short form agreement that is favorable towards the company I work for, that has the language and the legal language that supports the company I work for. And we should probably have standardized things for the town also, instead of using the contractors' favorable contracts in their language. It's a cleaner way to go, and it protects us a little bit more. Not that this is a lot of money. This is only $29K, but for the entire build out and stuff, we should really look at those type of things. And I don't know if we have them. We might already have them in place, but it's a question really for the team, because I don't know.
I will certainly check with Lisa Green regarding this. She can contact town council to see what they have.
Okay.
Uh,
I mean,
if I'm not mistaken.
I can flip some legal language on. Again, it's a solely owned proprietary company, but it's got a lot of protections in there for, if they have a subcontractor on there, and the subcontractor gets hurt, they cannot come back to us. Just a lot of protections in there that the lawyers have looked at over the years and thought that they were beneficial to have in there to protect the owner or the town, those type of things.
Well, once we get into, past the design element and we're into building a building, it's all going to have to go out to bid,
Right.
and the specs have to be written. You can't use a boilerplate. The bid specs would be written, and all those languages would be put in there, as well as, I'm sure prevailing law, wage is going to come into effect, as well as other triggers. So that would be our town council. I'm sure that would be writing that. And I just know from some of the projects that we've done with the schools, how that ends up operating.
So how do we do the smaller projects like 29K and, maybe up to like 200K? How do we do those type of projects where?
Well, what's the, and I'm not sure on municipal, I think, what's the trigger now? 35, or is it up to 50 for municipal buildings?
I'm not sure.
I think it's 30,000.
Yeah.
I mean,
30,000? Okay.
What raised the flag here is they gave us their contract. And that's something that I don't do in the private sector, If we're the ones writing the check, we work, everybody works under our contractual agreement.
And typically what we do, for instance, with the schools is we write out, our request for proposal, or if it's under a certain amount, that we're just, going with the one company, we'll still write it out, or we'll write it out in conjunction with them and send it to our town council, and our town council will review before anything's signed, and then go through everything in that nature.
And that's what we do too.
Whatever language.
Yeah, that's what we do in the private sector. We'll attach this as an exhibit to the agreement, but the agreement is signed under the language that we create. But this,
Is it is it something we can do now? Actually develop a request for proposal and ask them to take a look at it and see if they agree?
Yeah, I mean, I can flip to probably Bruce, and I'll flip it to the entire team, our short form agreement. I don't know if it'll be applicable, but, you know, it's gonna say the company I work for on it. We can do some cut and paste and getting that out of there. But I don't know
Or
if we could do that.
wouldn't our town council have those boilerplates if we request from our town council? You know, I would assume that they would, you know, for
Well, town
the
council-
proposal.
Town council won't know the language to use for
No.
description of what's required, so we'd have to come up with a
The
list.
scope of work they'll need help on, but the basics of the contract itself, you know, the boilerplate, as Dawn's saying, I would assume that they would have that on the shelf somewhere. You know, that they've used it many a times and they probably charge many a times.
Well, I think maybe this committee should look over exactly what they're offering, and if we need to come up with something more, describe something different than what's on here, we should think about that.
Does,
I think it's a great point with the time and materials, though. You know, what goes into that, you know, into task one? How many man hours? You know, what, you know, is there travel time? Is there, you know, any materials that they're going to be using? You know, what goes into making up that 3,900, or do they just make up numbers so they could get under 30 grand? You know, and actually, if you put it out competitively, you might have someone come in at 18 that is a well-qualified company as well. I don't know. I don't know the
Fred,
answer to that.
keep in mind the what was approved at town meeting was 50,000.
Yep.
So we could put this out to bid, but it's gonna, I think we can all trust environmental partners. I've worked with them before. They were part of the borings that we did over there, and they were very helpful. I know
Yep.
that they're working with a lot of the towns locally, and we have had a good rapport with them.
Okay.
yeah, I'm not,
And that's
I
important.
wasn't trying to push this to be rebid. I'm fine with, if Bruce feels comfortable with environmental partners and you do, Bob, I think they're probably the firm to go with. My statement was more in the legal language of the contract, how it's written, just for our own protection. And one of the other things that we might have an opportunity to do now is some of the documentations really spell out what we're receiving with this report. Are we receiving construction documents or conceptual designs? Are the designs just coming in a PDF form, or are they coming in AutoCAD files or Revit, or,
Well,
you know, is it a document
during
later on?
Yeah, Don, during my meeting over there with Bruce and Dennis and environmental partners, we discussed some of that. They will represent the town at town meeting. They'll come up with some conceptual designs that will help sell the project.
Okay, so this
So
isn't a
I
hard
think-
line, it's just more high-level conceptual design.
Yeah, now we did the same thing with the police station, and we ended up coming up with the conceptual drawings that we all liked, and we ended up going with a different firm, so we got a different design.
Okay.
I think there was a bunch of us that liked the first design for feasibility better than what we ended up getting. But this is a good company.
Okay, good.
One thing that comes to mind when you speak on documents is, you know, should there be language in this proposal that all documents are then the property of the town of Whitman? I know in my past job where you know, a company went defunct, there were GIS maps and things of that nature that were only accessible on a computer, and because the transition of the data was never presented to the client, we had to do the work all over again. So you know, I would recommend that some kind of language be put in there that any and all documents be provided, you know, hard copy and electronically. You know, again, just to protect us from, you know, having to duplicate work or any issues on the back end.
And
Yeah,
so
no
it
problem.
still needs to
We'll
go
have
to
them add
council
that in.
anyways.
I think they have in the past, though. I mean, Environmental Partners has done quite a bit of work for the Public Works Department, and I believe in past projects they've provided hard copy and, you know, digital electronic media. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Bruce, but I think that's accurate.
No, that is accurate, and we can include the wording in this. There's no problem with that. Like I said, we'll certainly have town council review this for wording, and she'll usually put a lot of red writing in these, and then we'll correct them. And if that's a request right there for documents, we can certainly have. That's an easy one.
All right.
All right, good.
Any other questions out there? So just to kind of back up a bit, what exactly is the role that Environmental Partners is providing? Are they acting like an owner's rep or in a different capacity?
They will provide a cost estimate with a conceptual design.
So that's different from owner's representation. That, you know, I think that will be somewhere in the future, I guess.
Yeah, I think what they're going to do is they're going to point us in the right direction. They're going to give us information sufficient for the town to make a decision whether or not to fund it. And they come into it, and I think they're in the process of a couple of these projects right now. So they know pricing, and I know that this price of steel is going up. So this is probably a good time to get going on this.
All right. Any other questions out there? Bruce or Dennis, do you have any comments or questions for us?
No, I think I'm good. You know, we will appreciate any input from your board that has experience in these things. Obviously, you know, like I said, I have not been involved in building a municipal building. You know, Bob's Current's been very helpful, and like I said, we are extremely comfortable with Environmental Partners. We've done a lot of work, water mains, large projects coming up, so we're very comfortable with them. And you know, we're looking forward to getting this moved forward so we can have a building to present at town meeting with some firm numbers.
Okay, so what would be the next step from here? Changing of the language in the proposal, and then we'll do this committee will do a little follow up in regards to terms and conditions type stuff.
So
David, so it sounds to me like a good idea will be to have some wording change, to have town council then review it, get any input they have, and get a what hopefully is a final document from Environmental Partners. Then you know, I can send your board a copy and for review, and then it'll be pretty much our board of commissioners who will sign off on it, and we can get rolling.
All right. Bob, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, we had discussed whether or not they would be willing to enter into a contract for time and materials not to exceed. Is that the will of this board?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it makes sense.
Bruce,
Okay.
do you think you could ask them to do that?
Sure. Time and material not to exceed.
Not to exceed, and then the total price of $29,000, whatever.
You can't.
The other thing is that maybe we ought to have them put some language in the contract that they will represent their finished product to town meeting if we request.
Yeah, I thought that was in there because I know verbally they had committed to that.
Yeah, and maybe we ought to just document that because yeah, he was willing to do that, and I do think they called for 2 different meetings, but that one didn't necessarily include the town meeting.
Okay.
And
So that's
actually,
something that
within this, they do say that we are ready to proceed with these services upon receipt of a formal notice to proceed. We will draft a formal contract for the town's use upon reaching agreement with the town on the proposed scope of services.
There you go.
So they're not even saying that this is the final contract.
this is
so to
just a
speak.
proposal.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
That's good.
All right. Anything
All
else from this committee? All right.
Yeah,
Thanks, Bruce.
I have a question, if I may, to Bruce.
Go ahead, Dan.
Dan, Bruce, where last town meeting where we appropriated monies for vehicles, where are we on that? Those capital items?
So we are taking delivery of the large cabin chassis
Okay.
tomorrow. We
Beautiful.
removed the sander body off the 1999 truck, the stainless steel, and that went over to the outfitter in Plimpton today. So tomorrow we'll deliver the new truck will come to us, and it won't even stay overnight, and it's going to go right to the outfitter to have our body put on it.
What is
So,
sent it
and
to
then-
Carries?
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's the one who did our other truck.
Yeah.
Everything worked good. So as far as we had two other utility trucks, Chevys, they're due for delivery, we were told sometime in November.
Yeah.
So we reached out to them last week just to see how things are going, and frankly, we haven't heard back. But
Yeah.
the idea that things were behind, I guess, with the Chevrolet plants, et cetera, due to COVID. So, you know, it was going to take. It actually took longer to get the one-ton trucks than it did to get the cabin chassis Peterbilt, which is, you know, it's a beautiful truck.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, I'll be presenting more. There's more to come. I'm looking to, you know, I still have a fleet of 1999s that I got to continue to, you know, weed out of there. So I'll be presenting this year another one of them cabin chassis deals, and, you know, looking to replace one-ton dump. You know, we can get. I'll send all that to Dave before the end of the month. But there's several more to come.
That's good. No, we need to restore them.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we haven't bought new trucks since the middle 90s. Yeah, we're
So
lucky
we're
we
chipping
got
away
that
at
much
it. We're
use
going
out
in
of
the
them.
right direction.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys. Dennis, thanks, Bruce.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
Have a good night.
Good night.
All right, so the last thing on the agenda is approved capital liaisons. We had a pretty good spirited conversation last time. So are there members on this committee that want to act as liaisons for specific projects, capital warrant projects that were approved last year? Those being, well, we have the DPW feasibility, the Whitman Middle School feasibility, and those various IT projects, and there's one more, I can't think of it. There's one more out there.
So we
fire
had
station?
Whitman generators.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Fire station and the
Schools.
generators for the school, yeah. So does anyone want to volunteer for to just be a liaison, just to, you know, kind of similar to what we just went through with this proposals, you know, just try to get a general overview of where the project stands. Was it completed? Has it not been completed? Schedule, things of that nature.
Depending upon how my assignment is, I'd be glad to do the schools.
Okay.
I can help with some of the schools too, Fred. A couple people reached out, Ernie reached out and asked if I'd join in with the middle school project, and I accepted. So I can help out too with anything with the schools.
Okay, well, and I'll be on that committee, as I believe Dave is.
Yep.
On that committee.
I'm on that committee as well.
I think
Okay.
that middle school feasibility one, I think that's going to be a large load. So yeah, so Don, you want to take that and you know, and obviously, you know, communicate with Fred at any time that's necessary on that one.
Sure.
Okay.
Don, I don't know if you're willing, but I'd like to have you part of the feasibility for the DPW. I would
Sure.
like to be a liaison, so maybe there can be two of us for that.
Absolutely.
That's perfect. Yep. Yep, I can do that.
All right.
Yeah, you've got a lot of experience with commercial plans, so.
Yep.
All right. I think that will cover us for now. We have Josh here that will provide us with any IT updates. Hopefully, I'm volunteering him here. He stepped away for a second. But I think that
If
puts
I
us,
could make,
absolutely.
if I could make a suggestion with Josh, as far as IT in the school and where we were, having a little bit of a, discussion earlier, Josh has a wealth of knowledge. And I think it would be a shame if we didn't tap into it. And, if he's willing, to be the IT liaison with the schools, he's smarter than I am when it comes to that stuff. And I think he has the best interest of the town at heart. So that would be the, two great requisites, I would think.
Josh, you came back right at the right time. We were just talking about if we had any volunteers for liaisons. Bob and Don are going to be liaisons for the DPW feasibility. Don and Fred will be liaison for the middle school. Fred will be the liaison for the middle school. And we were hoping that you would, obviously be a liaison for any capital projects IT related. And then Fred was just you came in when Fred was making the suggestion that we maybe utilize you to be a maybe a go-between, if maybe that's not the right term, at this point, Fred, will be future capital requests regarding IT from the schools district.
Correct.
Sure. Yeah, I have no problem doing that. Well, I think they have some projects in the pipeline, if you will, so.
Yeah, and like we'll be seeing the telephones again. That'll be something else we'll be seeing. We're hopefully, and they're saying now sometime in December, we will have a capital or an IT matrix as to what the plans are over the next 5 years. Because I just have the feeling that we really need to grasp it, because I don't think it's going to be chump change. I think it's very, very extensive.
Oh, absolutely. Hopefully they have somebody on IT for the middle school project as well.
I believe Steve is on that committee, I believe.
Okay.
When you say middle school project, which one are you referring to?
The feasibility study for the new building.
So you mean they would need someone to represent them and tell somebody what their IT needs are? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm just saying, I'd like to make sure they have somebody that has some IT experience that's part of that building committee. I was going to, send a message to Jeff and George and sort of volunteer my time, if you will, to, my kids will be going to that school in just a few years. And I just don't want to, a project to go together without having solid IT, foundation as far as the new building's concerned. I mean, especially if you're going to consolidate buildings or whatever you're going to do with that particular building, at the end of the day, we want to make sure that they have the technology that they're going to need for now and into the future.
Monday at 5:30 at the middle school in the cafeteria.
I did see that. Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yep.
That's our first meeting, so it'll be interesting. We'll start to get going and try and get a game plan together, so to speak. The IT needs will probably work closely with the architects, once that starts kicking, so to speak.
Yeah, but we found over the years that obviously, unfortunately, the architect copy and paste from a lot of different projects. So
yeah,
if you want your own,
you need your own people.
Absolutely.
Just remember that, at this time that the question hasn't been answered of whether or not it's a tear down or a rebuild.
True.
That's true.
So keep that in mind.
That's true.
But if anyone who's interested, Abington has, they just built a new high school. They have a pretty good website and kind of outlines their step-by-step process of what they went through and what they anticipated. I don't know, if you Google, Abington new high school, you'll probably find it. It's on their website somewhere. But it gives some pretty good information.
And I was also on the high school feasibility study committee and the building committee. So, I still have fond memories of all those hours spent in the portables.
Yeah. All right. There's something else I had on the chairman report. One thing I neglected to say during the chairman report was that I did receive a copy of capital requests from Tim Greno for the fire department. I'll go ahead and distribute that, and we can discuss that during our next meeting, which is scheduled for November 5th. So hopefully by then we'll have all, I provided the deadline of October 31st. Hopefully by then we'll have all the capital requests in, and I'll have them all, whatever I receive, I'll distribute out, and we'll have all of them that we received on the agenda for that November 5th meeting. What I would anticipate is that, everyone would review it prior to the meeting, and then we would come to this meeting with a bunch of with questions, and then come to consensus of what those questions are, and then distribute those back to the department heads. Unless anyone thinks otherwise, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I would have sent my capital article to you already, but unfortunately I've been focused on getting the grant application done today for the finance system. So
is just out of curiosity, that wasn't a capital article in the past, though, right? This is something new.
For the finance system,
Yeah.
we definitely evaluated some software. We didn't get as far as attempting to. We did solicit quotes, I believe, in the beginning when I first transitioned back in 2012, I want to say, and I want to say the price tag sort of scared us away when we looked at Munis. So it's definitely been on the radar, and it's definitely, I believe, in the Madden report, I believe, that was mentioned as far as the financial system we currently have is definitely old and certainly not what we need for today to be able to actually properly plan for the future. And, they suggested we start, with the financial system and then move on from there into, replacing our, HR and payroll system eventually, once the financials are all settled. But I mean, the financial part of the picture would essentially, replace the bulk of the system, if you will, and allow us to initiate workflows for purchasing, so we'd be able to basically sort of lock things down, if you will, and more control of what is actually being purchased, and make sure everything's aligned properly with procurement laws and stuff like that. So
Interesting. And that's
is it Munis?
Yeah, long story short is we did get two quotes. We got a quote for the school situation, and they told us that it's going to cost us a lot more because it wasn't done in collaboration in the beginning. When the schools decided that they were going to go and do their implementation, they should have asked both towns, Whitman and Hanston, if they wanted to collaborate in that project, and it would have been a heck of a lot cheaper for both towns and the schools to get together to make that happen. But because the chart of accounts has already been established for the school district, there'd be significant back work to be done in order to actually get the town of Whitman integrated with that system. So their recommendation was, unfortunately, at this point, it makes more sense cost-wise to just continue on with your own system.
Okay. I'm sorry that they didn't have the foresight to see that.
That'd
be crazy.
IT, right? It's a lot of unknowns and a lot of dollar figures.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's certainly not cheap in some aspect of things, but if you look at it at the end of the day, you get what you pay for these days. If you want to buy a system that's going to do half the work, then you're going to get a system that's going to do half the work. Unfortunately, the amount of paper and spreadsheets that we deal with on a weekly basis to process payroll, and the amount of human error that can actually happen or may happen and does happen, is crazy. And the amount of time savings and like I said, the ability for us to be able to, provide reports for, annual audits or whatever might happen, it'd probably take seconds versus potentially days and trying to search through filing cabinets and do all this other funny business, because we just don't have the tools and resources and the software that we, use to be able to do that.
Not to mention how much quicker payroll would be for some of the departments, because they can just turn around and put the file right in that they're currently doing today, and it's compatible, and just a push of a button and payroll's done. How many hours does that save?
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, the payroll right now is basically each department is responsible. They put the stuff into a spreadsheet. They send it over to the treasurer's office. The treasurer's office has to key all the information into the computer. I mean, it's just, long story short is we definitely need to replace the system at some point in time. And just applied for the IT grant, in hopes of obtaining at least the foundation, which I think is like $195,000 or $194,000. So if we can at least get that established under the grant, we're well on our way. And hopefully, a year from now or 2 years from now, we can finish the project off and get the payroll transitioned over. But the biggest, I think, key is the financial side of things.
And probably be able to sell that abacus for some good money when you're done.
All right. On that note, anybody have any comments, questions, concerns? Well, all right. With that, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Sorry, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion. I need a motion.
Oh, sorry. Make a motion to adjourn.
Yeah. Josh McNeil makes the motion. Somebody second.
Second.
Justin Evans seconds. All in favor? Roll call vote. Dave Cadaro, yes. Justin Evans.
Yes.
Ron Essen.
Yes.
Dan Salucci.
Yes.
Fred Small.
I'm going to abstain just for safety's sake.
Yeah, good move.
Good idea. Yeah. Josh McNeil.
Yes.
Bob Curran.
Yes.
All right. That's the end of the meeting. Brian, that's
Thanks,
the
guys.
end there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks.